Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Well, they say if you jail the bankers, this whole New World Order scheme would come down like a house of cards. But while the U.S. and Europe were bailing out the crooks, Iceland did just that. In fact, Iceland has now sentenced another 5 high-level bankers to prison for directly contributing to the collapse of their country's economy in 2008. This brings the total to 26 corrupt bankers that Iceland has sent to prison, most of them being CEOs of large financial institutions rather than low-level traders. Now, most of those jailed will serve 2 to 5 years, and their crimes include market manipulation, embezzlement, and breach of fiduciary duties, all of which help to destroy their country's economy. Now, of course, these prosecutions have been possible because rather than protect the very institutions responsible for the collapse, they took them to task. They let them fail, and then they created a financial supervisory authority to strictly oversee the banks. But that's not here what we do in America. In America, they're just too big to jail.
Iceland is the answer for the world. They were told they owed something like $85–90 billion if you go back to the time 6 years ago during the banker bailout at the end of 2008 globally. They just arrested their finance ministers, got all the documents, and found that they owed about $4 billion or less. In fact, some estimates were less than $1 billion. But the point is they debated $1 billion, $4 billion was the max. Some estimates were as low as $800 million. The point is $800 million to $4 billion. They've paid back several billion of it now with interest. And they've now arrested 26 corrupt bankers that were involved in the scam. It turns out the head finance minister had signed the government on to big British, Swiss, and U.S. banks' debt that wasn't theirs. And why is that important? It's the exact same model here in the United States, in Greece, in Spain, in Portugal, in Italy, where the number is normally above 90% of the debt that we're signed on to is not ours. Just like we have 19 trillion of debt that's U.S. debt, but we've been signed on to way more other international obligations and things that aren't our debts. And then the bankers that basically honcho all this, they're able to get full control over society. So there is that extremely important article up on Infowars.com.
In the U.S., Congress gave American banks a $700 billion TARP bailout at the expense of taxpayers. Not one banker in the U.S. has even been charged with a crime relating to the financial collapse. There's still virtually no regulation of the banks. And in fact, they're now raking in record profits, $160 billion annually, all from money that they create out of thin air. So this is a common theme in our present day government, protecting the crooks. And just like that, there's also going to be no charges filed for Lois Lerner. Now, this is former IRS official Lois Lerner. They're not going to charge her or anyone else at the agency. They're just, DOJ announced they're dropping the case. Now, let's not forget, Lois Lerner did the kind of things that Nixon was impeached for, using the IRS to go against political foes. So she's going to face no charges and for targeting conservatives, and probably because if we actually could find those servers, we'd find that those directives came from the very top of the Obama administration. Now, they do say that the probe found substantial evidence of mismanagement, poor judgment, and institutional inertia, leading to the belief by many tax-exempt applicants that the IRS targeted them based on their political viewpoints. But poor management is not a crime. So they were just too slow to process any of their applications. All of these people there are just crazy, thinking that they were specifically targeted. Basically, they're saying our entire government would be in prison if mismanagement was a crime. The whole government is guilty of institutional inertia. And now this mismanagement, of course, is the exact same excuse used when they were investigating what happened to that missing $6 billion from Hillary Clinton's State Department. It was also just, they said that they were just really bad at doing their paperwork. Oh, well, forget about that money. And of course, that's who we need as president, someone who loses $6 billion. Now, speaking of getting away with criminal negligence, Hillary testified in front of the Benghazi committee yesterday. And if you've seen the videos, she laughed about going home to bed the night of the attacks. She all but blamed Ambassador Stevens for his own death, saying that he was in charge of his own safety. And she also said that she did not blame it on any video. So when it comes to Hillary's performance at the Benghazi committee hearing, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Take a look at how the New York Times covered it versus, say, another publication like the Wall Street Journal. They've got a picture of her there, and they say basically that Hillary, here she's smug, and she let others do the yelling this time. Well, the Wall Street Journal showed some other pictures of what was really going on that day. Her just looking so smug, laughing. They omitted her 2-minute coughing fit. But that's all you really need to know about what the media is going to try and spin the Benghazi hearing. But here's all you need to know about Hillary's testimony from a mother of one of the victims in the Benghazi attack.
With all due respect, the fact is we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make? It is our job to figure out what happened and do everything we can to prevent it from ever happening again, Senator.
When you heard that, what went through your mind?
She's lying. She's absolutely lying.
So is it finally time to see a revolution in this country, or will people like Hillary and her crooked cronies remain too big to jail? Now, we're certainly seeing the elite start to scramble. We've reported many times before record profits there in the home security business, paranoid super rich becoming obsessed with home security. Watson's got an article up on Infowars talking about how billionaires are splashing out on high-tech panic rooms, blast-proof windows, hidden spy cameras, all sorts of things to protect themselves, protect their riches, of course. But should they really be worried about soaring crime rates, or is it something else? Are they beginning to realize that it's finally might be time to pay the piper?
74 combined years in prison. That's how Iceland's Supreme Court and the Reykjavik District Court respond to those responsible for Iceland's financial collapse. This brings the total to 26 bankers now behind bars in Iceland, with most being CEOs of large financial institutions rather than low-level traders. Most of those jailed will serve terms of 2 to 5 years, according to a report by Iceland magazine, which notes that 3 executives at Landsbanken and 2 at Kauping, along with 1 prominent investor, have been prosecuted. Their crimes include market manipulation, embezzlement, and breach of fiduciary duties. Their market manipulation destroyed the country's economy, and to this day, Iceland is still having to repay the global loan sharks at the IMF, as well as governments of other countries, which kept the nation operating. Iceland magazine explains that rather than protect and reward the very institutions responsible for the collapse and the blood-sucking vermin that run them, the Icelandic government let them collapse, and then created a financial supervisory authority to strictly oversee the banks. Iceland's President Grimson noted, "Why are the banks considered to be the holy churches of the modern economy? Why are private banks not like airlines and telecommunication companies and allowed to go bankrupt if they have been run in an irresponsible way? The theory that you have to bail out banks is a theory that you allow bankers enjoy for their own profit, their success, and then let ordinary people bear their failure through taxes and austerity. People in enlightened democracies are not going to accept that in the long run." Iceland's President Grimson explained their strategy. "We were wise enough not to follow the traditional prevailing orthodoxies of the Western financial world in the last 30 years. We introduced currency controls. We let the banks fail. We provided support for the poor, and we didn't introduce austerity measures like you're seeing in Europe. While the country's economy is far from what it once was, it has stabilized and is in a position to recover. Meanwhile, the governments of the U.S. and Europe bailed out most of those responsible for playing a direct role in the financial crisis that crippled the global economy."
Come on, get up, make the first move. It's my show. Make the first move. Yeah, get up off your butt.
You think I
go ahead, stand up. Stand up, come on. Stand up.
Yeah, what are you doing? Come back.
Take it. Don't you understand how many times it's done to people? Don't you understand the risk? Don't you understand the destruction?
The U.S. Congress gave American banks a $700 billion TARP bailout at the expense of the taxpayers. Not one banker in the U.S. has even been charged with a crime relating to the financial collapse. There is still virtually no regulation of the banks, and they are pulling in a near-record $160 billion in annual profits, all from money created out of thin air. The Department of Justice, under Holder and now Lynch, continues to pretend to do the hard work associated with reining in financial criminal banking institutions laundering drug cartel money. But fines and even penalties don't send the message that the banksters received in Iceland. Jail the bankers, the ones at the top, and free the taxpayers. It may be the most important meme the people of the United States could ever support. Jailing the bankers would bring the New World Order down like a house of cards.
We have a large house blend, please.
All right, let me get that for you.
Oh yeah, he's definitely one.
I gotta ask you this, it's just a matter of national security. I'm an important person now. Is there a reason you're paying with cash?
I don't understand how that's any of your business.
I have a couple 20s here, so I'm just gonna give you a 20. Is that cool?
Oh my God, they're everywhere. Oh, hold on. I gotta get myself together. I'm Jack.
John Bauer for Infowars.com.
Your liver can be full of fatty deposits, built-up toxins, and even dangerous objects known as liver stones. We worked with the top developers in the field of detox to take tried and true herbs and other compounds known to safely cleanse the liver and fuse it with the latest research and technological development on concentrating these ingredients to give you the maximum effect. Liver Shield is the only liver support product on the market that uses a patented Spigirex blend of powerful organic herbs that support detoxification. And when you visit InfoWarsLife.com, see the instructional video on how to do a 6-day liver detox. This isn't a game, and let me tell you, the results are dramatic. Liver Shield is totally organic and made of the safest high-quality herbs. But that said, you need to consult your physician before you do the full detox. Liver Shield can also be used daily by itself for overall upkeep of the liver. Secure your Liver Shield today exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com for the lowest price available. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.